Hello and welcome to Read the Last Page,
A Yap Session
book club.
with your two favorite long-distance best friends.
The book we read this month is The Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander.
And since we finally read the last page, let's talk about it. Hi, V. How are you? We have yet to do this this month, I think. So
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Hi everybody. Thanks for hiatusing with us. Lots of things going on in our lives, including I'm just moved into a new bedroom. I'm in my same apartment, but so that's why I have a different background. Now you guys get to see my dresser if you're watching on YouTube.
Exactly.
My little sister today that we are recording, she's flying into New York to move in with me, and she's taking what was my bedroom because this room is smaller, and she was like, I'm not moving to New York if I have to have this small room. And I was like, that's fine, because
She's so cool.
it's like I really wanted her to come, so I'm like, that's not even an issue for me. It's been fun. Seth took off work yesterday to like help me move everything over, and it was like so nice to like have someone helping me.
Yeah, and a man too. So
yeah,
like, please, like, I can't do that. Like,
yeah.
Not that you can't do that, but it's like I really hate trying to lift things.
Yeah, and like, you know, he was like retightening all the screws on everything before he moved it over. You know, like getting all those kind of like handy dandy details. And I had him like, I have like my strip of LED, like my strand lights, and I was like, he was up there like, I'm like, maybe move him this way, maybe move him this way. He was such a trooper. Like,
that's so nice.
I asked him to redo it a million times. So
yeah, that's so nice.
Last night was my first night sleeping in here, and I slept really good, so I like it so far. It is a little smaller, but we really worked the space. I'm actually, if you're watching, I'm gonna tilt my camera. Above my dresser, we put this thing. This is the thing that used to be behind me, that I had all my books in.
What
and now
the heck?
Oh, and there's flowers up there.
Oh my god, wait, that's so crafty.
Yeah, so like now I have my sweaters in there, because there's like not a lot of floor space, and when it was on the floor over here, it was feeling really just like crowded, and the heater's right there, so I didn't really want to buy the heater. And then we're like, what if we just put it up top? And so I have another one of those box thingies that's 8, which is on this side of me, and it now has like
your books,
all my books. There's me and Dan.
How cute.
So yeah, like we really got creative, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. And next up is like pinning all my stuff on the wall, which I always love to do. So
yeah, that's the fun part, truly.
Yeah. And also I started a new job, nannying. So I started that this past week, and it's been good. So it's just like things are like, it's like puzzle pieces are fitting into place right now, you know? So I feel good. How are you?
Oh, great. I was just going to say, and it's going to be so nice, too, just having, like, family in New York.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
And then I know you have a third roommate moving in soon. Correct?
Yeah.
When is she
moving? So the roommate that was in here, she has already moved out, of course, so I moved here. And then my other roommate, my other current roommate, she's moving out late March, and then that's when Heidi will move in. My other friend who reads a lot.
I know, and I'm like, yes, I'm so excited for you to have like, well, first of all, Heidi sounds super nice. I've never met her before, but like she sounds great. But like, I'm like, ooh, like what's her book collection gonna be?
Yeah.
I would be like low-key peeking my head in there like,
yes,
can I borrow something?
She actually, like, I was hanging out at her house one time. It was like a month or so ago, but I was like, do you have like a tote bag, and do you want to just like give me a load of books right now that I'll just take to the apartment? Because it's like books are always the heaviest thing to pack. Yeah,
they're tough to move.
And she has a lot, so I'm like, let me just go ahead, and I'm already going to my apartment. Like, so I've one tote bag of her books.
Okay,
in my room, but
just one tote bag. Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, yay. That's so exciting. It seems like this is going to be a really fun situation for you.
Yeah,
like,
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Sad to like leave my other roommates though.
Yeah.
We've lived together for 2 years, and like, you know, I love them too. So it's like sad, but I'm also excited for like all 3 of us are moving in with people that are like really important to us, and so it's like we're all excited about our new places to live.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah. So it's like good for everyone. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Well, slay. Sorry, I had to get that out. I'm doing fine. I don't know if you can tell by my voice. Again, audience, your girl got struck down for a 3rd time with a cold. Can you believe that?
I can't.
I really do think this is my 3rd book club episode in a row where my voice has sounded like this. I promise it does sound fine sometimes. So I don't know. I don't know why I keep getting plagued. But anyway, I'm all right. I've just been super busy with school, which has sucked. But that's okay, because you know what? It's been like really like lovely out lately. You know what I mean? Like it's like I think if like the weather was like horrible, I'd be like losing my mind. But like I'm like, like the window's open. Like I can go outside without a jacket on and I'm fine. So yeah, that's that's fine. But I have something to show you, because guess what I did last time I went to our hometown.
I made a candle at the candle place.
I haven't lit it yet because I'm just like, it's like once you light it, you're like, now it's almost gone. Not really, but like I'm just like, I want to preserve it.
What are the flavors or the scents?
Flavors. Yes, I always call scents flavors too. I don't know why. Okay, so this one I did. I always want to go with like, and I know you do too, because I stole this from you, but like a kind of like creamy smell and something.
Yes,
something that just feels like really like, I don't know, like warm. So I did old books, pistachio, because I really like the scent pistachio, and then roasted marshmallow, which I think I do maybe almost every time. I always do like a roasted marshmallow or like a whipped cream moment, because I think that's what gives it the cream.
Yes,
like the cream scent.
I've never used pistachio, I don't think, but I've used old books, I've used whipped cream, I've used whatever the other one. Marshmallow. What'd you say? What was the other one that you said? Whipped cream
toasted marshmallow.
Toasted marshmallow. Yeah.
Yes.
So good. So
I know.
Good.
Well, because it's like it's so nice, because it is kind of like a gourmand like scent, but like not like enough to like feel like overpowered by like vanilla.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, that's why we got to go with like the whipped cream marshmallow flavor.
Yeah.
Sense.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
Love.
I know. So I'm so excited about that, and I love the purple. I like, because like
it's cute.
Every season they like kind of make their jars like whatever colors are good for the season. So I guess I went during like the winter spring. So
yeah, I like that, because then it's like every time you come in, it's not like choosing from the same things. There's always something new.
I know. I love it. Anyway, yeah. So that's kind of really what's been up with me. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
Just getting through.
What is crazy is that you say like, at least the weather is really nice, but it's like,
you're
here,
in New York.
Like, we had a blizzard like,
oh my god, how
on Monday.
That? Yeah, so because like all my family lives out in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and so like they were sending photos of the insane snow piles they were getting.
Honestly, like this blizzard was better, I guess, than the one before that was like I don't know, like a month or so ago, a few weeks ago. Because I feel like maybe it was like everyone was ready this time, and it was like it was like Monday that it was like Sunday night. Monday was like when it was really, really snowing. Like the mayor said like no one's allowed to travel unless you're essential, which was fine. Like I was just staying home. But then like by the afternoon, it's like you could walk to the local store, and like by the next day it was like the sidewalks were clear for the most part. It's still like a lot of snow on the ground and stuff, but I feel like it was like handled more quickly than it was a few weeks ago.
That's good.
So it didn't like feel as like, oh, we're getting blizzard snowed in, at least where I was.
Yeah.
I think everyone like mobilized faster to like
Okay, good.
get ahead of it and take care of it. So
yeah, that's
but
good.
it was just funny because you said, oh, no jacket, and I'm like, oh.
I wish it was me. Yeah, what is that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. Well, I'm glad it worked out. It's not so crazy because like
Yeah.
I think like my whole family, they were all like, we lost power, blah blah blah, for like hours on end, which it sounded really scary. But like also I was like, they're like New Englanders and like something about New Englanders. I'm like, y'all got it.
Yeah.
like you guys are tough. It's fine. Because it's like here, it's like low key. If we had that, I don't think MoDOT would know what to do. TBH. Like I think the roads would like. Sorry, peace and love to MoDOT for sure. But like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if we have it in us, guys.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Well, I'm glad you survived, and we're good. And everything's good.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. Well, should we get into the book?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pull up my notes.
Okay. You want to give a synopsis or me?
I mean, I could, but like also I feel like this book is your book in a way, and so like I don't want to like take it away from you, like giving the opportunity to explain it.
I wouldn't feel like you're taking it away, but I'll do it.
Okay, yeah, feel free.
So this book, The Door of No Return, I read this book actually a few years ago. I don't know, could have been like 5. I don't know how long ago it was. But I loved it, and so much so that I just kept telling Dan how much I liked it, and she bought me this for, I don't know, my birthday or Christmas or something, because she just heard me talking about it so much. So now I have my own physical copy. So this time I actually got to read my copy. But we chose this book because it's like February, which is like Black History Month, and I thought of this book, like Dan had mentioned, like, oh, we should read something by like a Black author, and I immediately thought of this one, which is by Kwame Alexander. And so this book takes place in Africa.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of the specific location. The specific location, like Upper Quanta, is not a real place. It's fictional, but it's all based in reality, historical fiction.
Yeah, it's supposed to be modern day Ghana.
Right. And there's a little map if you're watching. But it's about a young boy named Kofi Ofen, and it's really, for most of the book, it's just about his life. I think, how old is he? I feel like about
He's 11.
12. Okay, 11. Yeah. Like he's like pretty young. It's just like about him. He's got a crush on this girl. They're having to learn English at school, even though like they have their own, native language that they speak. And they like get in trouble at school if they don't use English. And it's about, he has a brother and their parents, and he has an older cousin who's a bit of a bully to him in a way. And he wants to kind of prove that he's can hang with the other guys, and that's what we think the book is really about. And it really turns about half or 3/4 of the way through. I don't know, okay, how much do I say without spoiling?
I think it's so hard because so much of the book is about this.
Basically, okay. It becomes about something very real, and not just about him going about his daily life, but about something very historical, and horrible, and his journey through that. And the other interesting thing about this book is it's written in, I don't know what you would call this. Maybe our English major can tell
verse.
us. Verse.
It's written in verse, so it's told through poems and not like standard prose.
And I really, really love the way it's written. It reads very much just like it reads like a story, but it's just written in a different way. But yeah, so it's about, a life, different than what I've experienced. And I feel like this part of history I have read other books about, but not from the perspective of an 11-year-old boy enjoying his daily life and then how it gets turned. I feel like I've read other things sort of, I don't know how to explain, but it was just a different perspective of this part of history for me, and it really I don't know, I guess it was very emotional and very eye-opening. And I don't know, I just think this is a type of book that I would recommend to anybody. I don't know, I just have a huge soft spot in my heart for this book. I don't really know how well that I just gave an overview, but
it's so
feel
tough.
free to add.
Yes, it's so tough. There's so many different, I think, summaries that I read of this book before actually reading it. They don't talk about what the final 50% of this book is about, which I truly think is the not the story, because the first half about Kofi's life is the story and part of the point, but there's the conflict is so much of this book, and I feel like I want people to know what it is about before going into it, but I fear that because none of the summaries say anything, it's going to be perceived as a spoiler. You know what I mean? I will say though, The Door of No Return is a very famous historical landmark. So if you're somebody who knows what that is, or wants to find kind of be prepared about what this book is, just look into that.
Yeah.
And that's going to give you kind of answers as what this book is about. I think too, it's important to note, which you kind of also mentioned without straight up saying it, but it's a middle grade book. It follows an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And so one thing that's so interesting that I think about the way this is written is because I don't read middle grade very often, but it's a book that I never felt I was oh, I'm too old for this, I've aged out of this. It's written with such careful hands, to the point where he trusts every reader so much. He knows that what he has to say is important, and the story is important, and basically the thing that makes it feel the most middle grade for me is just the voice he gives Kofi, who feels very much like an 11-year-old boy, who feels very he's super jubilant and young and caring, and you're so endeared to him, and he feels so you want to protect him in a way. But then everything else is happening, the language that's being used, and the actual moments, and the plot and the conflict, that's sincerely super real stuff. It gets kind of dark pretty quickly, and so I thought that it was such an incredible line that the author walked, where it very much was a middle grade book, but never felt for me only middle grade audiences could read it. I felt I was getting a lot from it as somebody who was very much not in the middle grade audience, and also just doesn't read middle grade very often. So yeah.
Now that you're mentioning talking about it being middle grade, I'm thinking the middle school history classes, if they're learning about this part of history, I feel like this would be a good book for the kids to read.
I was looking into Kwame Alexander's kind of because I don't know if you've ever looked into his bibliography, but he has so many books where I'm like, he wrote that.
Oh,
like
really?
he's written a lot of books that I just remember seeing like in my middle school library or like in high school. Like I'm just like I think he's got such a backlog of, and he writes I think mostly in verse, like, so all the books are kind of in verse, and so I'm like, he's got such a backlog of like writing for younger audiences like this. I just I'm really intrigued to see what else, but yeah, I think he's just like I think he's just very interesting author for like that audience. And so I agree. I feel like that this would be such an interesting book to read. I was thinking too, because as I was mentioning, this book, it shocked me at how dark it got.
Yeah.
And I was thinking there were times where I was like, this author does not pull any punches. Like, I mean, it's nice because, like I was mentioning, like, I feel like he walks such a line where like he understands that there are like 11-year-olds probably going to be reading this, but he also realizes that he's telling the story of an 11-year-old who's facing a very really, really scary, awful a journey, I guess. And so it's like we can't not talk about it because it's a real thing that happened to kids that age, you know what I mean?
Right,
so it would be unfair to be like, they're too young to know about this. However, I think there are some moments where I was like, because I'm like in my 20s, I understood what he was saying between the lines, but like, I don't know if like a 10-11-year-old would. And so I found it to be just like so interesting, like the way, like I was like, it's a very dark story, and like it felt like it was for young kids, but then also like I think a lot of the things that he wasn't saying made it so much more harrowing for somebody who understood. It got me thinking a lot though about like middle grade, and I was like, I feel like there are so many things I remember reading in elementary school and middle school, or like not even just reading, but like maybe like shows, movies I remember watching or being shown that were like so dark and like honestly a little traumatic, but like so important to like give that audience, if that makes sense. I like, cause this is a really weird parallel, but like Bridge to Terabithia, for example.
I literally thought of that while you just said that. Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, I remember that movie and book specifically. We read the book, and I obviously had seen the movie, but like we read the book in class, I remember. And that book messed me up as a kid. I remember just like almost hating the feeling it gave me, because it was just like, it's almost kind of like this book where it's like, for so much of it, it's just about like childlike wonder and excitement and like, you know, the connections you're making with people who live near you, all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden something really crazy happens, and like tragedy strikes, and it turns the whole story on its head and makes everything, it's almost like everything you read before is now seen in a completely different light. And I didn't like that feeling as a child, but I was obsessed with it because I was like, what, this could happen? And I think it's like there is like a real interesting like hunger that a lot of young kids have for the scary and hard stuff in the world, because it's like truly for so much of your life there's like this big black curtain over like so much of the world that no one wants to show you, and the only way we can kind of get glimpses into that is like, I guess, through experiencing it yourself. But even then I think it's maybe hard to fully understand firsthand in a way at that age, you know. Like, I don't know exactly how to explain that, but I think through books and media, it's like the most intense connection you can almost get to understanding a lot of the world and like kind of how scary it can be. And it's almost like addicting, that feeling that you get, because like I just remember again obsessively thinking and like watching and reading Bridge to Terabithia because I was like, it was so upsetting to me, but I was like, I wanted more. And I just think there's like, there's just such an interesting thing to like to write about scary stuff with the intention of younger audiences in mind, because again, and I know I keep saying this, but like it's a delicate line to walk. I think this book does it really, really well.
I think that feeling that that you like had as a kid, like reading and watching that, reminds me of how I felt reading a series of unfortunate events in like elementary school.
Yeah, a good pull. Yeah,
because I remember thinking like, okay, this is like scary. Like this man is trying to like rob these kids, steal these kids, and take their money, and like these kids are all alone. You know, like I remember feeling like, wow, that's like nothing like my life. You know, like I was lucky to feel safe and secure, but I remember wanting to read them so bad because I wanted to like understand them. And it scared, like the books did scare me, but it's like, but I felt like I needed to know what came of it, you know, and like to understand. True. Yeah.
I do think, yeah, that's why it's, you know, we constantly say this, but, and I know it's such a known fact, but like fiction is so important because of the way it teaches empathy and like lets you walk in the shoes of someone else. And it's like, that is such an interesting thing that you just said, because I think the most impactful way almost to kind of have that experience is to show children something that is so polar opposite to their own lived experience. And so it's like I also think of books like The Hunger Games or like anything dystopian where we're seeing children who are living in completely different worlds than us, but like something that we're like, well, that is entirely possible. It might not feel like it's
literally
it's soon. Yeah, exactly. It's close by or like in near proximity to me, but like it could happen. I could see how it could happen. And this is what would happen. Like me and Katniss could be the same person, you know, in a way.
Right.
And so, and that creates such, just like almost like this link of like compassion and understanding with like so many different worlds and like then opening up like a more curiosity for like just other lives. I don't know. It just, I think that's such an interesting thing that you just said, and like really does, because I'm always like, I feel like I've read things before where people are talking about how we're like, we shouldn't be making young adult and like middle grade books like super scary for kids. We're scaring the kids. And I'm like, I think kids really like things that are hard to read. Yeah. Because it's like, in a way, it's like showing them something that they've yet to really think about.
And I feel like they feel trusted, like almost like an adult, like they're getting, like I just think about if like I would have read this in middle school, like I think I would have felt like, I don't know what the right word is, but like, oh, I'm being trusted with difficult information because I'm capable of, you know, thinking about hard things, you know, like it feels like a, like, I don't know if respectful is the right word, but it feels like I'm being taken seriously, you know?
For sure. Exactly. That is so true. Yeah. And I also think there's some beauty there too for like, when you're a kid, I think you still have a lot of safety nets. So it felt, I remember I liked to read a lot of kind of more scary things because the actual scary things all felt very far away from me. And so it's like, because if I was reading The Hunger Games in my 7th grade homeroom, I'm like, I'm not gonna be freaking selected for the Hunger Games tomorrow. Like, I'm in my 7th grade homeroom. And so it's like, I think when you have like a lot of comfort around you, as you do when you're a child, I think it makes reading the scary stuff kind of a little easier to swallow. Anyway, so like literally that's all to say. I really do feel like this book, it just like reminded me of a lot of stuff that I had read when I was younger. But like you were also saying too, like I had yet to read a book that told this specific story this way, which I want to get more into, I think, in the spoiler section for sure. But like it was telling a story I thought I knew, but then like recontextualizing it in a way where I was like, I don't know so much about this specifically, which is I think really important.
There's one more thing I wanted to say before we go into non-spoiler. I mean, before we go into spoiler. Also, just, you were talking about like, you know, he wrote with care and stuff, and he also included like at the back like some of their words in the, I think the Twi language. I think it's TWI, Twi or Twi. Like there were, there's like a small glossary, and each chapter started with like a different symbol, and like in the back it explains like what this symbol is and what it's called and what it means. And I just feel like that also made the story read so authentically because we had some of these like words from their actual language. But
yeah.
if I didn't, a lot of times it's like you could from the context just like understand what the word was supposed to mean, but anytime I didn't, I could just flip to the back and I, learn something new. And I really liked that, the way that was used, and I just felt like, I was learning about another culture and history while reading.
Yeah.
So that's just something else that I just, again, I just loved the way he wrote this. So
yeah, I also wanted to ask you one thing too before we head into spoilers, because this is such a, we've yet to read a book told in verse, and I love poetry, and so the whole time I was reading this, I was trying to think, I'm like, okay, but I wonder why he decided to write in verse, other than maybe it's just one of his concentrated areas, like something that he just really likes to do. Like I was like, why is it this story he decided to tell in verse, and like how is he using it to be the most effective? Do you have any thoughts on like why you think it was told in verse?
So maybe like I'm pretty sure when the grandfather is like telling one of his stories, they talk about how like oral tradition is very important and passing down the stories, and like I feel like maybe it's like sort of like that, like there's a bit of lyricism or like melodic like tune to like how they speak when they're telling a story of like of their people and of their history. And so maybe it's like this book being written in verse is like reflective of just like their the way that they communicate is in these short stories to each other, and like they might speak with more care or like more succinct, I guess. Whereas like, in this day and age, and like I'm thinking about us like sending like 30-minute voice memos to each other, like we're never brief, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure,
because it's like we're just like blah 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 blah, and like but we're not thinking about our words always being like a passing on of history, or like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like maybe the verse of it all. And I think also him being 11, I don't know, just like a childlike lens of the world where like things are maybe a little more whimsical or magical, or like just like, oh, and I like this girl, and here we are at school, like
that's interesting. No, I didn't even think about the storytelling element. Like that is so true. And like such an interesting tie to like actually like again like the culture and the history that we're learning about. I was thinking that like I think this book takes a lot of like it's emotional. It's an emotional journey. We rely a lot on the emotions that Kofi is feeling both in his village and then post I guess like the real climactic conflict of the story. Kind of we have to know about his emotional journey in order for the story to, I think, feel the most effective. And I just do feel like the way that the verse is used, we're able to like enhance the emotion of it all was so interesting. You could play a lot with like even just like the formatting of like the text. Like there were times where it was just like what am I thinking? Like text would be smaller based on like quieter answers given, or like if we are shouting Kofi's name to get out, like because there's this river in his village, and they're like, you can't swim in the river at night. And so it would be things like people yelling his name to get him out of the river, and it's like Kofi, 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 Kofi. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, like that's so interesting. Like I love when people are allowed to like really play along with not just like their language, but the actual formatting of the words on the page. Like that's so interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like when I was that age, like if I were to write a poem, I would want to, you know, do decorative words, or like, you know, like it gives it a sort of young boy or young kid like finesse to it in a way.
Yes, no, I like that. All right, yeah. So I think that's all I have to really say about the non-spoilers part. If you guys can't tell, B and I recommend this book.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it's a very much like a historical fiction read, but it's quite unique in the way where if you're not somebody who really reads a lot of narrative stories told in verse, I think this is a really interesting introduction to something that utilizes that style and that genre. Like B and I said, it's for sure for everybody. Like whether you're in middle grade or like our age, or I would give this probably to my mom, you know, like I mean, like I think anyone could probably benefit from it.
And there's a lot of there's like a lot about family as well, and like there's something in there to pull on everyone's heartstrings and feel affected by his story, you know. I highly recommend. And guys, isn't it so nice that Dan got this for me? And now we're getting to read it together.
Yeah, exactly. Also, one more thing I wanted to say, because I like I said, I was looking into Kwame Alexander's kind of backlog of books. I think this is in a series.
Really?
And so he's writing different stories of like black children throughout different time periods. And so I think the second one is about a girl who wants to be the first pitcher of like her like I think New York sports team, I think. But so I'm like, that's so interesting. And
I would definitely read that.
I'm like, I wonder if there's any ties to any characters we know in this book. I don't know, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. I'm gonna have to look in. I'm the type of person where like I go to the library and I just like see a book that's interesting, and I looked, the copyright on this says 2022, so I'm pretty sure I went to the library, I saw it on like the new releases table, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And where was I going with this? So like I didn't know anything about the author. I just picked up the book for the book. So now that you've mentioned all that, like I want to look into more of his repertoire and see what else I might want to read.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I guess now if you guys don't want to hear any spoilers, you should probably leave, because we're about to spill a lot.
Talk about the whole book, yeah.
There's a lot to talk about, and we really gave you crumbs for the non-spoiler part. So, anyway, we'll see you next time if you're leaving. But let's get into spoilers now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I guess we should start off by like actually just like stating out in the open what the huge conflict of this book really is, which, you know, it's discussing Kofi is ultimately captured and then sold into the transatlantic slave trade, which is it happens like I guess around the 50% mark, correct? Like, because it's like really what's so interesting about this is like you don't realize where it's going until it's like you're like, oh my god, like I know where this is going. Because it's like there's the village wrestling match between Upper and Lower Quanta, and then Kofi's brother kills the prince of Lower Quanta, accidentally, of course. And then like it's like both him and his brother get captured. I'm saying this all because I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Yeah.
You know,
no, you're good. You're good.
Missing any details?
A quick recap is good.
Yeah, and so like him and his brother end up getting captured because they are out late one night, as their parents often tell them not to be, but they are. and they get captured by lower quanta people and are eventually kind of like separated. Kofi doesn't understand where his brother is, but he thinks that essentially what's going on is that he is being held for like his initiation to become a man, which is what like this like ceremony process thing that they've been telling him about most of his life, and he's preparing for it. And he's told that one night men will take you and you are to be like kind of like tested to like your like to the most extreme degree, and then if you pass that then you'll become a man. And so that's what he thinks is going on, and he's with a lot of other younger boys, and eventually he finds out that he's been captured by the villager, the people of lower quanta, and his brother's killed in front of him. Right?
Yeah.
And then
which is like already
awful.
Horrible.
Like that specific part was like I kept getting like actual full body like chills while I was reading this, where I was like, oh, like really awful visual things happening. And then eventually the people of lower quanta sell these boys that they've been holding for days to men who are in red coats, as they're described. And they essentially don't even know what they're doing. They're just passing these men on for like an exchange of goods. And then Kofi is taken onto a ship. And so that's like essentially what goes on like from the 50% mark of the book to like the 90% mark of the book.
Yeah.
Which is, my gosh, it's so interesting because, like, again, like, for so long, I didn't really understand what was happening. I was like, okay, so Kofi's for sure been captured, and it doesn't, I was feeling like it was leading to something, but I was kind of just like, well, it's just like the people of the other village, and I don't know where we're going. And then, like, my heart, like, dropped the second we got to that one place where, like, they were seeing the Englishmen.
Yeah.
Or Americans, I guess.
Yeah.
But they hadn't.
What I think is, like, so, again, well done about this writing is, like, you're saying, like, you know, you felt confused, like, you weren't really sure where it's going, which, like, I already knew having read it before, and it's hard for me to remember what I thought the first time. But, like, this, I think, had such a stronger impact rather than being a book like Kofi wakes up here and he feels confused. You know, like we are just reading his thoughts and what he's thinking. And so because he's unsure, we're unsure. And there are moments of dramatic irony. Like, for example, we know who a man with no color, we know who that is. He doesn't. But like, there is so much where it's like we are lost because he's lost, and I feel like that makes you feel very tied to him and his emotions. And again, like, I think what I really okay, I keep saying this is what I really love about this book. There's so many things.
It's like everything.
But like I really like how so much of this book is just about him and his 11-year-old life. And then it gets flipped because it's like, you don't think this is a book about the slave trade, you know?
Yes.
Because for all of these people that were captured, or, you know, at the drop of a hat, like, their life wasn't about that. Their life was about their life. And until someone else came in. And so it's like, if we had started this book right at, you know, his capture from the river, like, while it would still, of course, be traumatic and sad and difficult, it's like, I feel like all this time learning about, you know, he has his crush on Ama, who I love her. And like, you know, it's like, there's really as the book is called, The Door of No Return, once he's taken, he's never gets to see his parents again. He never gets to say goodbye. He never is gonna know the life that he had before. And like, we learn so much about his life, and it makes that loss as the reader like so much,
so real.
Yeah, like we can understand it so much deeper. And I feel like it's like not just a book about the transatlantic trade, it's a book about a boy. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. There is so much in this book where it's like I don't even know how to explain this fully, but like quite a lot of other characters dehumanizing other characters. And I think so much of slavery, obviously the reason why it happened and was able to continue for so long is like, well, still is, but it's just like the dehumanization of people. And like you have to have such a cut off kind of point of view to like just truly believe people are not capable, or not capable, sorry, are not like
worthy.
Worthy, thank you so much. Are not worthy of just like respect and like the decent humanization that you should give them. And I think what this does so great is like there's so much of Kofi where since we spend so much time getting to know him and his friends and his family, and like you see so much love and just like general respect, and like we learn about all their cultures and like just like different things that are important to like him and that he plans for like his future. I think it's just so it feels so different and difficult when it's all taken away, and like when he is treated like he is not human. I think it's like so well crafted to the point where it doesn't feel at points like I'm reading about a boy. It feels like I'm feeling the same feelings as Kofi in a way.
Yeah.
Because like we are like, as a reader, like it feels quite jarring, and the journey is supposed to be jarring because for Kofi it's jarring. Like imagine living that. Like it's like I'm still so many thousand different steps away from feeling how Kofi feels, but like because of like that way that the story flips it on its head, making like disarming the reader, you're feeling in some small way similar feelings to Kofi, and I think that's just like so well done. So you were also mentioning, because we're talking about his grandfather, but you also mentioned right before this that what you liked was that we're not starting in the middle of the book here. We start with like a very, very like long journey of just getting to know who Kofi is as a boy. And I think they're like it reminds me of the first poem in this book, which I think is so good, where it says that Kofi's 80-year-old grandfather is telling a story, and he says that it's been told a million times before, but the way he tells it is almost like he knows that like everyone is so rapt and like, ooh, where's this gonna go? And so I think this is a direct quote that I wrote down. There was even a time as how my papa's father, the village storyteller, begins most of his fireside tales, always starting in the middle of a thought, like we were to know what even came before. I think this is such an interesting like metaphor for like the purpose of like what this story is meant to do. I think a lot of people might think they know about really the ins and outs of what the slave trade was like. I'm just thinking like, especially in American history, we do learn a bit, but in the acknowledgement, I don't know if you read the acknowledgements, but Kwame Alexander kind of talks about how Black history began before slavery, and he's not interested in acting like we should start in the middle of like Black history to tell their story. Like he says there's so much about African American history that focuses on the American and not enough on the African. Yeah. And I was like, that's why this book is so interesting to me. It's like you're so right. And like because so much of the stuff I've read about, I think, slavery and especially Black history is so American centric, and right. It's, which is so unfortunate, because it's like, especially when you're reading this book, you're like, the colonizer mentality is already so steeped into the story, even on the first page. Like we see it with his teacher, and like I just think it's like, to even then take stories that are supposed to be like giving further cultural context to any African American history, but again, like placing the emphasis on American is like doing such a great disservice to the actual history of everything. And I was really, really happy to read that quote and like understand like that's why feels so I think fascinating to read, heartbreaking to read, and also just like telling a story through a lens that I had yet found. And so yeah, I think it's great. I think it did something great for me.
Yes, I completely agree. And I feel like I read the acknowledgement the first time I read the book, but I didn't have time to read it this time. So I'm really glad that you did and you brought that up, because it really shows that it was very intentional in the way he wrote this and stuff.
Exactly.
One thing that I wanted to mention, and I feel like it kind of goes along with what you were saying, is one of the words or phrases or whatever in the glossary here is this like call and response that they do, agu ame.
Oh yeah.
And like when I was in college, I had an African American professor who like he taught my modern class, and we also had like a semester or so of like African dance with him, and he would say that to us. Like like he told us like this is a traditional thing, like when I say agu, it means okay, attention here, and your response is ame, to show like you're listening and we're ready to hear what you say, and it's just like then reading it in this book, it's like of course I believe my professor, of course, but it's like I'd never heard it in a context outside of in my dance class. And it's like, oh, so in my head I thought maybe it was like traditionally used in just like a dance setting, but it's like, no, this was just like, this is part of the culture at large, like, and so that was kind of cool for me to read, I guess like a way that I was personally connected to like their culture, I don't know. I just thought that was cool. And like tying my a current day experience that I've had with the African culture from way before all this history,
Yeah. That's so interesting. A text to self moment.
Yes, of course, always.
Also, since I talked about the first poem, I went back and I also read the second poem. And the last line in the second poem, because he's talking about kind of his village and like I think what it was doing is like talking about like him playing in the water and everything, because he's really connected to the water, of course, which I think is such an interesting metaphor throughout the whole entire. Like it's almost like foreshadowing in a way, but like also like not. I don't know. I think there's another word I'm thinking of. Anyway, but so the second poem though, the last line is, picture me running over rocks and grass swept up in the cool breeze, rushing to the water, diving off the back of a, and it cuts off.
Wait.
And I was like, it cuts off. And I remember reading that for the first time and I was like, why did it cut off? And then when you read the end of the book, you're like, oh, he's jumping off the ship, by the way.
Yeah. Wow.
Sickening. Like sickening in a way where I'm like, ooh. I couldn't have written that.
So, like, let's talk about the ending, because the ending is really, like, the first time I read this book, like, of course I was emotionally moved and stuff by so much of it, but when I read the ending, like, I mean, like, I was crying, and like I felt very like the ending is what made me be like, this is a masterpiece and everyone needs to read this. And actually this time when I was finishing it, I was reading it at I was with my kids that I nanny, and they were like at their swim practice, so I was like in the like the swimming area, like
You're in public,
and I'm like getting teary-eyed like around all these other like parents and nannies. But I just think yeah, she's been running around.
She's like was trying to get that thing. Okay,
you were saying something very serious, and she was like darting around back there. Anyways, like I think the dynamic that he has with his cousin, the other Kofi,
yes,
is such a. I feel like it's such a real family relationship. Like I feel like a lot of people might relate to having like an older sibling or an older cousin or someone in their life who's like, you guys know, like at the end of the day you're family, but the older one's always kind of, you know, pulling tricks on the little one, and like, I'm bigger, I'm stronger,
right?
And that's really hard as the younger person. Like I feel like that's so rooted in like so many people's realities, and it's one of those things where it's like you can see it with the way that his parents or his older brother or his grandpa speak to him. Like it's one of those things where when you're a kid, that is like the worst thing in the world, like to be sort of bullied by your older cousin,
right?
And it feels like, you know, so life and death. But all the, you know, wise people in his life are like, you know, always reminding him like family ties, and you know, one day it's not gonna matter, like you guys will get past this in a way. And there's almost no moment in the book where cousin Kofi is like genuinely kind to Kofi Ofen, and like he's kind of a bully the whole time to him, and this river race is gonna be like Ofen's one time to really show him up. And getting to the end and finding out that his cousin is there too, like it just like,
it's a sucker punch.
It really yeah, it just like really got to me. And it you know, I feel like it's you know, even the biggest and toughest of the kids are still suffering the same fate as, you know, the small kids. And like I think that Kofi Ofen becomes very strong through his experience with that woman. I can't remember her name.
Oh gosh, like Ofu, A-U-F.
Oh yeah.
I or you, I can't remember.
Yes.
But I just called her auntie in my head.
Yeah. Okay, we'll say auntie.
When I was writing my notes, I was like auntie.
Like the auntie, like really, I think gives him a little bit of emotional grounding in a way. And then it's like when Kofi and his cousin are seeing each other at the end, now his cousin is completely out of any sort of grounding, and he's scared, and he's doesn't know what to do.
Yep.
And Kofi Ofen, who spent time with the auntie and like saw her, you know, saw her jump into the water, and like it's just such an interesting and heartbreaking and moving change of dynamic, where now Kofi Ofen is the one being strong, and the cousin is like, you know, begging and pleading for him to, you know, just, you know, give him some relief or help him figure out what to do. Whereas through the whole book, he's always, I'm bigger, I'm tougher.
Yes.
But in the end, it's like, you know, bigger and tougher cousin really does love his younger cousin, need his comfort, need the support of each other. It just like, I don't know, it just really broke my heart, like that that whole ending of them finding each other, and Kofi Ofen like saying like let's fly together, and then together they go off. Like it's like gonna make me cry, like talking about it. Like it just, and also because Kofi Ofen, there's a part where he's on the ship and he's like having dreams, and he's thinking about, like, there's one on page 375, like he's wondering if he's forgotten. Like he wonders, like, are my mom and dad thinking about me? Like, is anyone at home thinking about me and wondering where I am, or do they just not care? Which is so horrible to think that he, would have those thoughts. But it's like in the end he gets one more chance to see someone from his family, and it's probably not who he would have picked had he gotten to pick.
Yeah.
But they, the family tie is never unbroken, I think, is what like his grandpa said. And it's like, they were tied to each other, and they, in the end, they had each other, if only, for a moment. But yeah.
There's so much in that moment where I felt it's so interesting. Like it's like I was so relieved in a way to see the cousin, and even though I like spent the entire like book disliking him, but then also you're like, oh my god, like no, this is so horrible. Like he was on that ship, and like also it's like you don't know. It's so interesting. Like you don't know who else has been. Okay, sorry, Belly. Just you don't know who else in his family has been like captured and also kept on this ship, who has just died on the ship or who died even before this.
Right.
Like, and he, like, Kofi for a moment, he asks if there's anyone else, and I believe his friend, like, Ibu, I think, is, like, he's mentioned that he was also taken, but, like, we don't know anything about anything else. And he thinks to ask about Amma and, like, his mom and dad, and he's like, no, I can't even ask about that.
Yeah.
And like I'm like, that is so heartbreaking, because it's like we only know what happened with Kofi and his brother. Like once we leave the village, we leave the village, and I'm like, we're never gonna get the answers to what exactly happened, who was taken, etc. I also think that it's just like there's so much that is insanely full circle in this book. Like when you finish it, you're like, everything was a foreshadow. Like it's quite crazy. Like the swimming contest, in the end, they never get to have their swimming contest in the river because Kofi's taken, but like in the end the swimming contest ends up being like a swim for their life off the boat with each other, and instead of racing each other, they're like trying to get it together or like work through it together. And I just feel like that is like so insane, like such an insane way to bring back that and like recontextualize it. There's also like this quote about I think Florence Pugh talks about Midsummer when she said this, but she talks about how when she left that movie she felt like really awful for the character she played, because she felt like she was leaving her with like a story unfinished. And like, like she's like, I wish I could like stay there and like finish her story. Like I just felt leaving her. And in such a huge way, that's kind of how I felt about Kofi. The book ends a little abruptly. Where he's just jumping and then we don't know anything else. And you can make inferences for whatever you think, but there is no, I think, right or wrong answer for what happens next. I just feel like I'm like, I left the book, I was like, I don't feel good. Like, I don't feel good about where he is. Like, I just want to know, he's okay, but I don't think there's any real reason to, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I didn't get enough, like, reassurance that I felt like he was going to make it. But, like I said, like, this is a series. And so I think that, like, the next book, whatever that is, has a tie to Kofi. And so I'm like, I don't know. I want to look into it more. But it's just so interesting, especially because, like, that whole ending part is so... like visually like awful to read. Like he's just describing like people getting pulled down with the ship and like people dragging each other into the water, and like you just like you don't believe there's any reason for any of these people to get out alive.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, who's to say?
Right.
There's also something about, I think, Cousin Kofi holding onto the American flag as he's in the water and using that for like, I think, like a blanket or something to kind of like keep him up. I think in a way that could be used to, I mean, I think it could be used for a lot of things, but like for me, if I'm just thinking about having answers for what happens next, I think in a way it's like maybe hinting at like they're fine and they're gonna get somewhere. They were on the boat for a while. I'm like, how close to America do you think they are?
Right. Yeah. That's like part of my question is like, is there even land in a swimmable distance? Like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, they're the two strongest swimmers in their village.
That's true.
And
that
like,
is true.
I feel like they're like, I was trying to think, I'm like, why was he wrapped in the American flag? I think there's a lot that you can look at there, but I'm like, for me, if I'm just looking forward, I want to take that as a sign that they made it to the Americas.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
That's interesting. I both times I read it, I took it as they leapt into
nothing.
The end for them. Yeah.
Which I'm like, it's together. So sad. It makes me feel so sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it would be incredibly realistic and true of a story like that. So,
but I do like that you reminded me that they are like the strong swimmers. Like if anyone could have a chance at swimming to somewhere and like staying afloat, like it would be them.
Yeah, like I do think Kwame Alexander made like I said, he wrote this with so much intention. There's so much in there that I think are little clues to like why this can be and like could be read as an open-ended kind of finale where it's like I think there's a lot there that like, I mean, it's possible. It could happen. And so I don't know.
Yeah, it could mean that they do get to America and their fate is no better there. Because I'm thinking about it being called like the door of no return. Like I don't think there's any way they're going back home, you know?
I know.
But one other thing I wanted to talk about was just some of the female characters in this book. First off, like Ama, like she always had like I totally see why Kofi liked her, because she was always so fair-minded and so like saw the humanity and dignity in everyone, because you know Upper Quanta has like the upper hand between upper and lower, and because like I think they like control the money or the gold and stuff, and like from whatever their past was. And so the cousin, you know, often talks about like, oh, we're gonna take down lower because they're like beneath us, like we're above them. And she, you know, she says like something about like they eat like we do, they play like we do, you know, we're all the same. And that's sort of like an instance of like, you know, a girl bringing like wisdom into a situation. And on a side note, like I think you had mentioned earlier like about the dehumanization of people and stuff, and it's like the tables get turned and stuff, because it's like, you know, the cousin is saying, oh, they're beneath us, then lower is capturing them and killing them, then they're selling them to these people, and but anyways, then also like the auntie, like she basically like on page 326 he says like she's telling them a story, like all the little kids a story, which I thought was interesting. Like they said, oh, this is all the small kids, and they have her there with them. Um, like the older boys are somewhere else, but like with the little kids, like they, like the white men made sure there was like a mother figure there, like,
Right.
which I don't think is so much out of kindness for the kids, but more so someone to deal with the kids so they don't have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But she's like telling them a story, and then he says, I, for the first time in a dozen nights, I laugh a little. We all do.
Yeah.
And like what I wrote in my notes was like the comfort of mothers, of women, and it's just like that maternal presence. I just really admired how Auntie Afua, she
Mhm.
like she takes on this responsibility, and she, tries to the best she can, like, comfort these kids. And
Yeah.
because she didn't have to, but she wants, it's like in her nature, and she chooses to act on that. And like she says to him, um, like, this is on page 358. To the white faces with their sinister plans and long guns, holding crooked power and our destiny in their thieving white hands, we are not human, but we are. You must remember that. Um, like, she's obviously she's grown. She's an adult, and she's well aware that they are being dehumanized, and they're being, treated subhuman.
Mhm.
And she tells Kofi that, and she says, to them, we're not human, but we are.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
having an adult, tell him and remind him, like, don't, um like, she says, you must remember that no matter our fate, like, even till the end. Like, I don't know, I just really, it's just amazing, like, the way that women or mothers can give that little glimpse of like hope and a little bit of warmth, even in like these horrible
Mm.
situations.
Yeah.
And then her also telling him, like, whoa, she like gets taken up with the men for the evening, the like or the American men,
Mhm.
and Kofi's like hanging onto her leg, like, don't take her, don't take
I
her.
know. Ugh.
And she comes back and she says, like, I'm gonna die before they do that to me again. Like, just her resilience, and like her, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, she's taking action where she can be,
Yeah.
even in like literally the worst circumstance. Like, this is one of the absolute worst circumstances anybody could be in ever. And
Yeah.
like, she's still choosing to, like, hold on to her humanity and remind the kids of theirs. And I just, like, really respect and admire that. And
Yeah.
she doesn't just wallow, which, like, not that we could blame anybody who would in that situation. But I had a lot of respect for her, and I really cared for her, and my heart broke for her, but
Yeah.
I just admired her. So
Yeah, I agree. She was a character who, the moment she was on the page, like, just like emanated insane strength.
yeah.
And like, I think there's something to be said about people who are in like the worst moments of their life who still choose to comfort those who maybe are in like more fragile states,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense, like just like
Yeah.
the younger children. And
Right.
like, yeah, she never sacrificed her strength, even though all anyone wanted to do was, like you said, dehumanized her. I think,
Right.
yeah, that is such a strong character. And like, oh, even in like her final moments, like she is like such like a sight on, like, as she's being like described, like she's like holding a knife to the white man's throat, and then she just like leaps off the boat.
Yeah.
And like, oh my gosh, like I think it's just like, even in your final moments, if you can kind of have like just insane like a real strong show of character, like the craziest backbone like I've ever seen. It really, and like the way Kofi sees her, I think, is so beautiful.
Because he sees the way she's treating him and the other kids, and then like Kofi is like giving his water to the other little boy who like hurt his leg or something. Again, like he's in a horrible situation and he's giving and helping someone who's in an even worse spot. And then I think his, he kind of learned that strength from her, and then that plays into the end when he sees his cousin. Like I feel like he's like drawing on what he saw the auntie doing,
And I feel like too, because we were talking about Amma, who obviously he's very obsessed with in a cute way, but like he like I just remember that moment you were explaining earlier where like his cousin was dehumanizing the people of the Lower Quanta, and Amma steps in and she's like, they are human just like us, they eat just like us, they like things like we do, like you have no right to dehumanize them. And it's everything that Kofi was kind of, I think, thinking in his head. But after Amma says it, he then has the strength to be like, yeah, like la la la, and he agrees with her and kind of emphasizes her point. And like, I think there's so much that he learns through specifically the women in this book, where he like it, like the women in a lot of ways I think give him a lot of strength. And I mean, you can also look at, like, I think his grandfather and his brother give him a lot of strength, but I love the specific strength that these women are able to give him without even giving him any advice. He's just like, because like I think he's trying to glean advice from his grandfather and his brother and his father and any man in his life, but like he's just following by example through what the women are doing.
That's so true.
And I just love that. Like, I just think that's so well done. And yeah, there's not a single woman character I can think of where I'm like, not done well enough. Like, I'm like, I love them all.
I love when the mom made him like his own bowl of something, because it's like it's his favorite, and but his brother eats so fast, so she like sets it aside for the other son. Like the mom, I feel like, had a lot of care for both her sons and stuff. This good is just like, it's just so good. There's another there's something else I've written down on page 232. I said more yam in quotes, and then a harsh reality makes us cherish the everyday annoyances. And I think this was a time where he was like, I wish I was just back home. I'd even eat another bowl of yams, like whereas earlier in the book he's like, oh, this again, and it's just like, when you're in those tough places, you just, the things that bothered you before, you look back with such fondness, because it's like that was your everyday, and you were comfortable to some extent, and you were safe. And I don't know, I just liked that callback to something that he had complained about more than once. And then when the tides turn, he's like, oh, I'd give anything to be eating more yams, oh
yeah, I know, it's so sad, like the constant reminders of like, like, I mean, the title is so fitting, Door of No Return. Like, we know he's never gonna see his family again, and like, I think there's so much that Kwame Alexander did in making like his life almost seem like it was so like childish, like childlike, through childlike wonder in a way, like to the point where parts of it just felt like quite maybe to Kofi like monotonous and like
Yeah.
like I gotta go learn Shakespeare with my the teacher who I don't like and like now I'm being picked on at school again. But it's like and then you start to cherish all that as the second it's taken away. Like there's another poem which I thought was like maybe my like most like the most effective poem I think for me in this, where is right after I think he's captured. And he says, like, I wish I was at school with Amma and we were doing this. And I wish I was at school with Amma and she was holding my hand. And I wish I was at school with Amma.
Oh, and it keeps adding on.
It keeps repeating the same thing with just a couple things added over and over and over and over. And, like, when you're reading it, and I was also listening to the audiobook. And so, like, I was reading it while listening. And, like, the repetition of, like, saying that over and over and over again, it almost, like... It like it's kind of grating in a way, because it's like I shouldn't be continuously hearing this written in the same exact way over and over and over and over again, but like it feels like such a like it gives such a visceral reaction to I think the reader, and then also like Kofi I think is like saying it over and over and over like a prayer, like a mantra. Like it just feels like very like he's trying to like self-soothe and like isolate, but he can't. It's like really really heartbreaking to read, but it's done really effectively. And like I think it definitely like goes to your point about he just wants to be in his safe space again, right, which the village has always been until this moment, which is so sad.
One of my favorite it wasn't like, I think it was like the very last couple lines of one of the poems was he's seeing her like carry the water on her head, and she like takes her hands off of it or something, but she's like balancing it so well, and he's like, how do you like not spill it at all or whatever? And she says something like, once you carry the weight, or once you like carry your own water, you feel the value of every drop or something. Ooh. I just like that to me was one of my I don't know, I guess maybe not most effective, but like stood out to me like a line or something that really stood out to me is like, once you're doing the work, that's when you really value it. I don't know. Didn't necessarily have to do with what you're saying, but
no. I like that you shared one of your favorites. I think there's a lot of really interesting poems in here. And like Kwame Alexander does not like limit himself to using one specific style of poetry. Like he really experiments and like uses a lot of different techniques when he's writing, and I thought that was really fun. And like just like interesting to see.
And I like, speaking of them too, and like things that we liked in the writing, there's one part where I'm trying to flip through and see if I can find it, because I know I like put a little bracket around it, but he's dreaming about like them falling in love and whatever, and he says something like he wishes his hand could like befriend hers. Let me see. I feel like I like wrote it down. Okay, 194. Let me see. Just the end of this one called Smitten on page 194. And every now and then my hand speaks to me and tells me it is lonely, dares me to befriend hers. Like there's just such a sweet, like I just feel like, right, like the whole point of this book is not their cute little 11-year-old crushes, but when he is talking about it and writing about it, like there's so much care and love, and like the author's not shying away from putting time into like writing something very cutesy and like sweet, even though it's like I mean they're 11, so it's not like they were like gonna have some big romance in this book anyways, but like even though it kind of gets dropped off later, when it is written about, like there's such care written about how Kofi's really feeling, and like I just love that we got such sort of like giddy precious moments from him. I just love it.
I agree. I know, that's why I'm like, I think like the emotional journey of Kofi through like everything he felt is so important and crucial to like the actual like impact of this book. Like it's like we needed to see even like the giddy kind of sweet moments that he has with him and Amma, because they feel so real and so normal and relatable. And then it's like and then when it when everything turns really scary and dark, it's like we're remembering those moments, and like they're making it all feel so much more distressing just because we've seen every version of Kofi and understand who he is as a person. It's so nice. It's very well done.
I agree. It for me it's like the content is important, the arc was well done, the way it's written is like an enjoyable, like it was an enjoyable read in the sense that like the way it read, of course it was not like, oh, this was such a joy to read, but like I liked reading the style. Like I just feel like it had everything, and I feel like even reading it the second time, like I learned something new, I felt new emotion. I'm so glad that we read this one, because I really have been wanting you to read it, so I'm glad that you read it and that we like read it together.
True. Honestly, I feel like the best way to actually engage with this book is to read it and then have a conversation about it. I just felt like, because I finished it up last night, and there was so many different poems I went back to and reread just because I wanted to get like I want to make sure I understood certain parts of it. And I was like, I had so many thoughts in my head as I was going to sleep last night. I was like, I do need to kind of talk this out. I feel like I need to like figure out Laura's takes on it, and therefore also kind of work through my takes on it. But yeah, it's a really interesting, like it was such an interesting read, and like again, something I don't think I see very often in books. Like just like even like I don't read middle grade verse books. Like and I'm like, that I think is just like a hard thing to come across. So it's like to see one have it like be done so well, and also, you know, I know you liked it, and so I felt like there was a connection there from the start. Felt like a very good like lightning in a bottle kind of book.
I'm glad that you said that after you finished it you felt like you needed to talk it out, because I feel like that's how I felt after I read it the first time, which is why I kept like I feel like I kept like bringing it up multiple times to you even though you hadn't read it, because I was just like, someone needs to hear about this, like I need to like, I mean, because I was just like, I felt very like changed by reading this book. Like I just felt like, oh, I just read something really important, and like I had no one to talk about it with, and so I was just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I'm glad that you had like a similar feeling, like it's just like, because it's so shocking and jarring in ways.
Exactly. It's like I had to wait 12 hours and you had to wait 3 years. My bad. My bad.
But it's okay because it finally happened. So
yeah, true. That's true. Exactly. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say before we start wrapping this on up?
I feel like we really rounded that out.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
I loved it. Okay. Well, then, thank you everyone for listening to Read the Last Page. Our music and illustrations were created by the talented Sage Timothy.
If you don't know our schedule yet, we host our book club episodes on the first Friday of each month. So for next month, we will be reading The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. That episode will be out on the first Friday of April, so be sure to pick up a copy and read it by then if you want to discuss it with us.
Before we get to the last page, though, we'll see you in 2 weeks for a catch-up episode where it's just besties talking. You can listen on your podcast platform of choice, or if you'd rather watch your podcast, you can find us on YouTube at Read the Last Page. You can connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, Discord, and Patreon. And for now, we want to say bye from B
and Dan.
Bye.